Welcome back to Fuchs Around and Call Them Out. I'm your host, Ben Fuchs.
And I'm Alex Cal.
He's just a guy, not a co-host. He's just a.
I'm just here.
Just here. We needed a body, and so we just kind of threw him here. All right. Today we're going to go through the 4 reasons why you might want an advisor or a second opinion. And, we do our best to give you not like generics, but real situations, real scenarios, things that people that we met with recently have been dealing with. And the first one has been coming up quite a bit in a lot of different situations. So bad customer service is one of the things that bothers the heck out of me. Heck is an acceptable word. So like I sold shoes at Nordstrom. Nordstrom holds themselves to a certain customer service standard. And it was like, oh, great, you sold a lot of shoes. Congratulations, we're happy for you. Or, oh, great, you sold more product in the store than anybody else. Great job yesterday. But bigger than that for Nordstrom was, oh my gosh, somebody wrote a positive review about you. That is like a big deal. That's when like the balloons come down and the confetti. And I feel like we need to be trying to do that with every single client that we work with. Fair?
I would think so, yeah.
So I would say recently, I had somebody that just became a client because they were working with another firm that had green in their logo. Am I
I think they have green, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they got green in the logo. And so part of the frustration for him was that, every time he would ask something, it was always, everything was reactive. Nothing was ever done proactively. And they would almost consistently forget the things that they had recommended last time and not follow through.
That seems concerning to me.
It's one of the things that would like make me absolutely crazy. Like it's almost like if you go to a car and you take your car to a mechanic and he's like, oh yeah, you should get brakes done next time. And then you come back the next time and like, oh yeah, your brakes are fine.
Right. There's no record here of what's being talked about.
Did you forget the lie that you told me last time? Like what are we doing? Like, can't you at least keep track of that stuff? So those were the issues. And what I've seen lately from not just that person, but also other people, is that when it comes to their money, they will have specific questions. Why are we buying this? Why are you holding this particular stock? What's the point in having this investment? And sometimes those questions are difficult to answer. If you're somebody else managing the portfolio, you're not the one doing the buying and selling, maybe you don't know, but you can always find out.
Right.
And if you just tell somebody, oh, don't worry about it, that's not for you to worry about, we'll worry about it, like, nope.
No, I would be not okay with that answer.
Yeah, that to me would drive me crazy. You have an example.
So similar, not so much in that sense, but like the way that the advisor would talk to them. Like a great example was they had a neighbor who's apparently at the same advisor, and they're 20 years apart. But hey, they went to him and they're like, hey, he mentioned this one particular product. And then, hey, they were talking at the fence one day, cleaning up leaves, and they're like, oh, like, yeah, I have an advisor. I wasn't happy, and they actually started the conversation of, well, who are you at? Come to find out they're at the same place, and the reason why they wanted to leave was because they both got recommended the same product when it didn't make sense.
When they're 20 years apart. So like, are we talking like 40 and 60? Are we talking 50 and 70? Or are we talking like 70 and 90? Because 70 and 90 is a possibility.
Well, we're talking 30 and 50.
Oh, man.
So very different in what needs to be done or what the concerns are. And like the product would be like 15 grand a year. And one has 3 kids in like daycare, and they're like, oh, well, that seems pretty high for something we might not even need.
On top of the fact that we don't have any money because our kids are in daycare, but yes, go on.
Right. Both work. The other one was like, yeah, that's like not a concern for me. The money's not the problem. It's just, well, I don't really care about what it would help with.
And I part of me really wants to like lay in and like go at these people. But the other part of me kind of says, they're kind of stuck within the parameters of what they're allowed to do. And, when you work for a bigger insurance company or a bigger company, sometimes the mothership is like, hey, you need to push this product. And so it might have been like that week where the mothership was like, oh, we need to tell everybody this because it's amazing and it's good for us, but maybe not the best.
Good for everyone else.
Yeah. And and I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. One of the reasons that we have become and stay independent is so that we never have to do any of that stuff. We don't have to like push a product. I don't have anybody saying, oh yeah, well, if you sell 2 more of these, then you get that trip to, you don't care. Never have, never will. Another one of my clients on the customer service front was working with, how do I say it? I like to call them the big box financial advisors.
Sure.
Right? Where you don't necessarily have your own advisor, but you typically would get good customer service, especially if you had more money there. Right. And so he was talking about how, he had for 15 years, really good customer service with this company. They would, he'd get passed around a little bit, but that was okay with him because it was very inexpensive and that was really important to him. And he didn't feel like he needed anybody to manage the money at that point, which is fine. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't necessarily agree with it either, but I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
But recently he said that particular big box company that is one of the kind of leaders in low cost funds.
Sure.
Which I won't name because I don't want compliance to get me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they stopped giving that service, right? The things that they were getting is no longer positive. It's not a good relationship. It's not a good working experience for them anymore. And so he's like, I just can't deal with it anymore. I need somebody, especially as I get close to retirement, to be able to actually answer my questions.
And hey, like there's a time and a place, right? If you're 20 years old, I just need to start it and let it sit. Yeah. No, all for it, right?
And I've actually recommended people don't give us your money. Don't let us charge you a fee. Do that with one of these companies and let it sit and grow for a long time. And then when you got more and there are tax reasons and there are other concerns and considerations that we can help you with, that's when it may make sense for us to begin taking over. But I don't want to charge you a fee if I don't have to and if we're not providing what I consider real value.
Right. I mean, I've noticed that more often with a lot of our clients' kids, right? They'll come to us, say, hey, we really trust you. Our parents trust you. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, just get me started.
Yeah.
And it really is just, okay, let's set up the account. Here's the investment. Just let it sit. Let's do its thing.
I had a father the other day of somebody recommended his son to us. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did that. I'm like, why? He's like, well, you said that you didn't want to manage his money. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean I wasn't happy to have the conversation. I think honestly, like maybe 30, 45 minutes of understanding which road to go down can make him so much more money in the long run. And, by having that conversation, I bet I've doubled his net worth over the next 30 years.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. So
I think it's just that education piece, right? I've read horror stories of people, they're like, oh, you should just start a Roth. People will put money in and then they forget to invest it. And it's like, okay, yeah, you did the first step, but maybe it's just we missed something, right? So it's just, hey, let's cover all the bases. Let's get you set up so you're good. And then we'll just review every so often. But
I think sometimes it's having a professional just to cover the bases. I think what nobody wants is to have somebody that just reiterates things that they already know.
Right.
But then it's like, all right, well, what am I paying you for? But if you're able to give value, I think that's a different ballgame. All right. So we talked about the 4 reasons why you might want an advisor. Number 1, customer service. To me, that's always going to be a big one. Number 2 was a little different. It's losing a spouse.
Right. And unfortunately, I guess in the last few months, that's been really common for us, unfortunately.
I mean, I think it makes sense. The more clients that we get, the more times we're going to experience that. But it just seems like there was a period where it was a lot. But you have a story in particular you want to get to?
I do. And so for her, everything was done through him, right? I mean, luckily for her, he did have a notebook with, hey, here's all the logins, passwords, everything, how to get there. But for her, it's still well, how do I make these payments? What is actually coming in? What is going out?
Has she actually made any payments before? Or is that anything she...
No.
Oh, never.
It was more just, hey, he took care of it.
Yeah.
So, hey, we'll just keep doing that. For her, it was just, okay, just bring me any bill that comes in the mail, try to get access to his email, and we'll just dig into it.
So she comes in, she brings you a bill. What does Alex Cal do?
Sure. So for her, the first thing was, let's see if he has a login for it.
Okay.
Because then I could check if it's on auto pay.
Okay.
Right. Once we get in, that's the first thing I do. Hey, this is how much it is. This is what it's for. Did you use this or did you not? Right. If it's like EverSource here, right, then yeah, we have to pay that. There's no question. If it's like a subscription you don't use, yeah, let's just cancel. Let's get it over with and be done with. But for her, it was just, yeah, let's get everything on auto pay. Let's know.
So this is the first time that I'm hearing about this. And first of all, I think it's amazing. I think it's incredible because, when I tell people that you give better customer service than I normally am joking, but this is actually very real. To be able to sit down with somebody and go bill by bill, line by line with their accounts, maybe with their bank accounts going forward, you don't need the subscription. That's a big deal, man. You should feel proud of it.
Well, the way I would look at it is like, hey, if that was my mom, this is what I would want. I would do that with my mom if my dad weren't here, just because she has to know, and bills need to get paid. It's not like they're just going to magically go away.
Now, you think it'd be a bad time to have EverSource cut off? You think that would not be the best?
No comment. Okay.
On
how I feel about EverSource, especially right now.
No. I got a friend who works at EverSource. I have to tread lightly.
Okay.
I got, this is where the politics comes into play.
Yeah.
But, I would just say that, maybe when it's like 1 degree, you don't want the power cut out. But what do I know? Okay.
Especially that it takes them a little to come back out and turn it on.
Yeah. Okay. So you wrote down confusion around accounts and income, and then emotional stress mixed with financial decisions. What was that like for her?
So since she didn't know what all the bills were, she also didn't really know where a lot of the income was coming from. And so she was like, oh, hey, like my expenses, I think are like $9,000 a month. And I don't know what income's going to come in. Like what happens when he passed? And a lot of his pensions had the survivor option, which was nice because they just continued on. But like the
full survivorship?
Full survivorship. The only thing, of course, Social Security dropped off, right? She got the higher amount, but her lower amount did go away. But when I had her write down some of the bills, because that was like the first month, I typically want to have her come in the next month just because, hey, anything else come up and from bills or even just unexpected stuff. But that way we can get a deeper dive on the expenses to say like, okay, well, what do we think this is actually coming up to? How much do you actually need? And she was like overestimating everything. She was trying to even tell me like how much the income tax was. And I'm like, listen, we don't even need to worry about this. Like, let me do that. Right. I just need to know what you need to spend and have fun and, take care of yourself.
Right. Yeah. Don't overestimate the taxes. Yes.
Yeah. So 100%. It was like 10 grand and then it dropped to like 6,500.
Oh, wow.
Because of all the little other things, she was trying to build in all this extra protection because she's like, hey, well, I just don't know.
Right.
And once we kind of broke it down, I was like, yeah, you're going to have a surplus with all this income. And hey, any of the life insurance, we'll just pay off all the debt. And you're more than okay. Yeah. And then once she kind of saw the numbers of like, hey, this is actually what's coming in, this is what's after tax, and this is what's the expenses and what I need to live, she's like, oh.
Take a weight off the shoulders.
And then she can focus on the emotional because it's almost like putting that to the side because you have to like survive. Yeah. And, once I told her and she saw, it was like a release of like, great, like I don't have to worry about this and I can actually mourn the loss.
Yeah, that's tough. When people pass, there's so many things that have to get taken care of, so many boxes to check, so many things to plan. And meanwhile, you're dealing with the death of this person that meant the most to you. It's awful. To switch from the emotional to the analytical, when we talk about survivorship, when you can take a pension, you've got a couple different options. You've got something called single life with period certain, usually 10 years. That means that from the day that pension starts, it will pay out for a minimum of 10 years. You die after 2 days of taking the pension, you get it for 10 years. You die with 6 months left, your beneficiaries will get the last 6 months worth of pension. But you live to be another 35 years, it's your life. So you still get that payment for the rest of your life, but now nothing will go on to your surviving spouse. And so then there's different levels of survivorship, 50%, 75, 100. 100% survivorship means that you're getting a lower payment, right? Maybe you would have gotten $3,000 a month if it was just you, and it's $2,500 a month if it's you and your spouse. But if something happens to you, that $2,500 a month still continues on to your spouse as long as they live. And in this situation, I'm glad that he made that choice, and they made that choice. Yeah, you'd say.
Way less paperwork too.
Well, it's kind of a big deal. Okay, so in the 4 steps, number 3 is the mechanics of retiring. Tell me about that.
Sure. I would say the most questions we typically get is, how do I actually start taking money?
Pardon me as I lift up my leg.
I can get workers' comp though, so we're okay. Because it is recorded.
I mean, if we're going to do that, let me hit you harder. Jesus. I mean, I want to earn it. Yeah, right. Sorry, anyway.
For them, it was really just, how do we actually take money, right? They hear about this 4% rule. Hey, this is how much roughly we could take out, right?
I hate the 4% rule, right?
I know.
Okay,
I know.
just making sure that you never, please go on.
But it's just, okay, well, what does that physically look like? Right. And a lot of the time people think, or some advisors will say like, hey, well, we just sell some of the stocks or the bonds and we withdraw it and just send it to you, right? I mean, we'd like to approach it differently where we're like, hey, let's leave that principal. Let's just use the interest that it's generated. And instead of it being into the account, right, we just direct deposit that to you. We take all the taxes out and make sure, no tax bill at the end of the year, no surprises.
Yeah, and then you still have your principal at the end of the year and you're happy because you've taken out all this money and you still have the value. I think that's a big deal. But, in the alternative for a lot of people, if they're working with an advisor, is, let me sell this mutual fund every 3 months or every 6 months, let me sell these stocks or these bonds. Because normal bond funds and normal dividend funds typically don't generate enough income to create that kind of environment that you want to live off of just the dividends. Another thing that happens often is that people will take money from their 401ks and they say, I have money in a stable value fund and I have money in these aggressive funds, but if the market crashes, I'll just pull from the stable value fund. Well, normally you can't do that. Most 401ks, when you take out money, you have to take out evenly out of every single investment that you have. The payment comes out. You can't just choose to pull from the stable value or choose to pull from the growth stuff. So then if you want to do that, then you have to go through this whole rigmarole, all right, let me take this money, it's going to come evenly out of everything, and then I have to wait a couple of days for everything to settle, and then I have to rebalance, and that's if you're actually paying attention, which respectfully, most people aren't. No. And so, one of the things that we do a lot is when you're 3 years from retirement, we begin to set up the process. Where is your income coming from? Where is the growth coming from? What is your safety net? Those mechanics, but then also I'm taking my paycheck. I've got to withhold 13% for federal taxes. My average state tax is 5%. Where is that going to come from? How is that? And so setting that up is important. But you had a client also that had more questions about it?
Yeah, it was really going to come down to, it started with a simple question of how do taxes work in retirement?
Okay.
Right? Where, things are taxed slightly different here in Connecticut, right? If you're under a certain amount, no state income tax.
$75,000 for individuals, $100,000 for couples, and then there's a sliding scale.
Correct.
Right. I just, I have to show people that I know a little bit. That's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could just put up the screen.
Yeah. Brandon will make sure that wherever my hand is, they will have all the phase outs with bullet points. Dree, can you hold up your hand too? Can we make it? Okay, there. You got it. Yes. And if you're listening in the car and you have no idea what we're talking about, you're welcome.
Just add to the confusion.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it was okay, well, do I just pay them in April and see what happens? Or do I pay them along the way? And what does that look like? Because a lot of the time people are just used to, hey, I work W-2. I have an employer. They take taxes out for me.
Yeah.
Right. Because the IRS is a pay-as-you-go. So we want to pay the taxes at the same time, or they get mad.
And what happens when they get mad?
Well, they just assess tax or penalties and interest.
So the only thing worse than taxes is taxes and penalties and interest?
Yeah, it's taxes on taxes.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's you're making people really love the system, Alex. Great job.
Well, that's why no one likes taxes.
You could be an IRS ambassador.
I would prefer not to be.
I would too. Sounds like an awful thing to be. Anyway. All right. So we take care of the paycheck. Now, when you go through this stuff, is it I'll just take money from my Roth first because I've already paid the tax on that, right? That's what we do every time.
No.
No. What? Tell me why.
So sometimes when I hear people say that, I just want to look at the numbers. Because Right. To the point of, hey, they live in Connecticut. They don't need a ton of income, right? Say we're only supplementing $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
We would probably be paying nothing to state or very little to federal, especially if all their income is Social Security.
Sure.
So in that instance, well, why wouldn't we want to take from this thing that, yeah, we might pay a little bit in taxes, get it over with, and then have the Roth grow as much as humanly possible? Because it's all tax-free.
Oh, so like if it goes from like 20 to 40,000 and 40 to 400,000, I don't pay any tax on that?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All tax-free.
Love that raw stuff. All right. And so okay, anything else that you want to add to the mechanics of retiring?
Just make sure you pay taxes along the way. If you are gonna owe,
Yeah, I mean, and if you need help with that, we have
give us a
people-
call.
Yeah, that's where we are. All right, health planning, also something that we can help with. We have a retirement healthcare benefits specialist, which works with a lot of people on comparing their existing health insurance, but also comparing different Medicare options, Medigap, Medicare Advantage, things that I don't want to do because it requires spreadsheets and numbers, and it's like a different line of thinking than where I like to find myself. You've helped people before with that, but it's not what you do full time.
Not anymore. I almost like supervise Josh.
Yes, I recall. Yeah.
Slightly weird, but that's
Now,
okay.
Is that the point where he knows more than you yet, or?
It's to the point. Yeah, I would have to actually ask him for certain answers.
Well, maybe we can make him his own supervisor, whatever. All right. So, I mean, obviously, healthcare is one of the biggest unknowns in retirement. And the landscape is changing. You know, when they changed the rules on the Affordable Care Act, that impacted significantly our clients, specifically those people who have retired, who are not yet 65, because they're not on Medicare. They have to pay for their own health insurance. And what happened was I had a guy who was paying $800 a month for himself, which is what we projected. We projected like 1,000 just to like be comfortable. And then all of a sudden, this year, it went from $800 a month to over $1,600 a month, more than double. Now, luckily, we were okay. You know, we planned for him, because when you retire early, you can't retire early and just barely make it, right? I mean, if you think about those woodworkers that are just like, you know, barely fitting that piece right to the, that's what you don't want to do when you retire early. You don't want to just barely make it. You need to have room because things are going to go up, costs are going to rise, and we projected general expense increases, but not to that level. So he is lucky that he's saved enough. He's put himself in a good position. We have money managed in a way that we can generate more of that income, and it's a temporary deal, right? He's going to pay for 62 to 65, but that's it. Once those 3 years are done, that's an expense that falls off. For the people that didn't plan for that, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, especially after the fact, really hard to just come in and then adjust so that it is less. Sometimes it is something where we can change for next year, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, like, are we showing less interest, any less dividends? Where are we pulling income so that you may qualify for things?
And when you say change for next year, you mean have them move to Albania?
No.
Okay, got it. I wasn't sure if that was a solution. I don't know. Actually,
Let's
no
go to
idea if they're
Canada,
good healthy.
right?
Oh, healthy. I don't know.
No, just changing the investments and what type of, where we're pulling from what type of account, right? Because that could change the tax situation, which is what the state of Connecticut is going to look at to determine the eligibility. And sometimes it is just a little bit of a switch. It's just, in the meantime, we got to kind of bite the bullet.
Right. And the things that you may have been doing, you may want to put a pause on. Like if you're doing Roth conversions between 60 and 65, you might want to hold off on that until after 65 to resume those Roth conversions, because then you get your income lowered, you're under certain limits, and that'll reduce your overall out of pocket, because you have to weigh the cost of insurance with the cost of the taxes. That all has to be, it's all money out of your pocket, right? How much are you paying for this conversion? And that cost has to be factored in. The other thing that I think really takes up a lot of people's mental space as they approach retirement is this idea of going into a nursing home. And, how do we plan for that? The reality that I've seen is that, yes, there are certain products where you can get long-term care insurance, and I'm not advocating against that, but a lot of people that can afford long-term care insurance also can self-insure. And that's usually the issue, is that the people that most need it also makes it unlikely for them to be able to afford it. Have you same?
Yeah, the other problem I tend to see as well, those people that's the first concern, and they've had family have it, is all their money's in retirement accounts. And so we're not able to shelter a ton because A, they're going to need it, but B, we would have to take it out of the retirement accounts, which is not a fun
ideal.
tax bill
No.
usually. So
It's almost worse. Like you'd almost rather pay for the long-term care than pay the tax person.
exactly.
At least then, theoretically, it's going, never mind.
Should be less, right?
No comment.
But it's kind of like that balance. And a lot of the time, once we go through the options and through the numbers, they're just like, well, it's about the same, right? And so sometimes it is just, well, if it happens, we'll tackle it.
No, don't. I think ultimately, there are some basic reasons why a lot of people need financial advisors, right? From a mechanic standpoint, putting your money in the right investments, making sure you're tax efficient, figuring out when to take Social Security. That's all under the purview of what a financial advisor does, right? And then taxes and income go hand in hand. And that's why we chose our website to be taxesandincome.com. I hope you like that transition. That being said, a lot of things aren't pure dollars and cents. A lot of it is, how am I treated? How am I talked to? Do I understand what I'm into? And when surprises for me come, do I have somebody that can explain that to me, where I feel comfortable and I feel like they have my back? I think that's, in more and more situations, I find myself being just a number. There's an issue with my health insurance. We had a person in the office that had an issue with the health insurance. And my word, the amount of phone calls that they had to make just to get some kind of change is insane. I don't want to have to go through a bunch of prompts and an 800 number just to talk to my financial advisor. I want a human being that I can sit across from and ask questions and look them in the eye, and that want to be held accountable. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fuchs and Alex Cal. And if you didn't, listen again anyway.